Be reading from Ishavasya Upanishad by Swami Muktananda. Last time I read anything from him, it was Play of Consciousness about a week or so ago. I'm going to read some of this brief introduction. This sacred text is considered the first Upanishad in the Vedic structure. Its name, Ishavasya, is as beautiful as it is profound. The word Isha means by God, while the extension Vasya means to pervade. When combined, it has such a beautiful meaning, the Upanishad of the all-pervading God. Using the root Isha, scholars also refer to the scripture as Isha Upanishad, or in short, as Ishopanishad. The Vedas are comprised of 3 sections: Karma Kand, ritualistic ceremonies; Jnana Kand, philosophic dissertation; and Upasana Kand, devotion and worship. Interestingly, the Ishopanishad presents a beautiful summary of all 3 sections together. This powerful role of the Ishavasya Upanishad stems from its location in the Vedas. It forms the 40th and last chapter of the Kanva Shakha of the Shukla Yajur Veda. I'm going to butcher so many of these words, just warning. Apologies. The first 39 chapters are majorly concerned with Karma Kand and minorly with Jnana Kand. The Ishopanishad concerns itself with encapsulating them and the subsequent Upasana Kand. Therefore, it summarizes the essence of the 3 main Vedic branches, Karma, Jnana, and Bhakti. Though one of the smallest, the Ishavasya Upanishad is amongst the most popular of the Upanishads. Mahatma Gandhi wrote powerful words of praise for it. If all the Upanishads and all the other scriptures happened all of a sudden to be reduced to ashes, and if only the first verse in the Ishopanishad were left in the memory of the Hindus, Hinduism would live forever. This sacred text is verily the essence of the 11 primary Upanishads. It begins by declaring the perfection of the Creator and then draws on an insightful corollary. Since God is perfect and complete, the world created by him is also complete. Creation is perfectly designed to provide souls the opportunity to evolve towards the ultimate perfection. As the Upanishad of the all-pervading God, the prime topic of the Ishopanishad discusses is naturally God and God consciousness. We find in it a description of the supreme divine personality from many different contexts. To convey God's inconceivable and immeasurable attributes, it uses powerful comparisons and literary tools, yet it clarifies that even powerful celestials, such as Indra and Vayu, cannot fully know the Supreme who precedes all creation. The Ishopanishad reminds us that having attained human birth, our primary duty is to attain the supreme destination of our soul. Forgetful of this, many fall prey to seeking the fleeting pleasures of the world. They expend their soul energy in sinful deeds. The Upanishad sternly warns such humans that a hellish abode waits them in the afterlife if they continue in sinful pleasure-seeking activities. We are then explained how to go about our everyday life with the correct mindset. Material consciousness is characterized by thinking thus: I am the proprietor of all I possess. Everything here is for my enjoyment. In contrast, spiritual consciousness is characterized by thoughts like, God is the owner and enjoyer of this entire world. I am merely his dedicated servant. I must use all I have in the service of the Almighty. The Upanishad reassures us that work performed in this kind of spiritual consciousness will not bind us in Maya, since the intention is not selfish. The uniqueness of the Ishopanishad is that it takes up extreme and apparently contrary viewpoints and skillfully resolves them. In the process, it provides us the wisdom to achieve a harmonious balance among the different dimensions of life. We are informed of the need for cultivating both the spiritual and material aspects of life. In the same vein, we are asked not to reject either of the two realms, God and the world. With a proper mindset, both these spheres are important and add value to our life. We should remind ourselves that God is sitting within every atom of creation. See all visible phenomena in the world, whether among sentient or insentient entities, as arising out of his pervasiveness. When we perceive this grand unity of all beings with God, it will dispel the illusion of their independent existence. It is then that we will develop equanimity of vision. The Ishopanishad in its later portion goes deep into bhakti, emphasizing the Upasana Kand of the Vedas. It presents the devotee's yearning for a vision of the personal form of God, which he perceives as covered by effulgent light. Subsequently, as prayerful longing for God increases, the devotee appeals to the Lord for mercy that all impediments preventing his supreme ascension be burnt. He also prays for similar grace upon all living beings. Come, let us now understand the mantras of this incomparable Upanishad. They are imbued with a host of sublime spiritual truths expressed succinctly. Shanti Path Mantra. I'm not going to be able to say any of these words very well, so I'm going to read just the English translation. The Supreme Brahman is perfect and complete. This world, having emanated from him, is also complete. Anything that the perfect and complete God manifests is complete as well. Having manifested the world, his completeness remains unchanged. This Shanti Path mantra bestows in one sweep an encapsulation of Upanishadic thought. The same mantra also appears in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 5.1.1. The verse begins by declaring the perfection of the Creator. Let us probe it gradually. Definition of God. To this often asked question, sage Parashar provides a beautiful answer. Using the completeness of God to define him, he says in the Vishnu Puran, God is he who possesses 6 opulences to unlimited extent: infinite strength, infinite knowledge, infinite beauty, infinite fame, infinite opulence, and infinite renunciation. In the above definition, Maharshi Parashar was enumerated 6 glories of God, or has enumerated. It does not mean these are the only opulences the Supreme possesses. Factually, the Lord is replete with infinite glories, and each to an infinite extent. God's limitless glories are expressed in the Shiv Mahimna Statra so charmingly, by admitting the inability to describe them. It states in verse 32, "Assume the entire earth were employed as paper, all the trees from the celestial abodes were used as pens, and the oceans provided mountains full of black ink. With all these at her disposal, if Saraswati were to write for endless eons, she would still be unable to complete the description of the glories of God." The indescribable nature of the Supreme is likewise depicted by other great saints and scriptures. In verse 11.4.2, the Srimad Bhagavatam beautifully conveys the futility of counting the virtues of God. God is endless, and his qualities are uncountable. Those who believe they will enumerate his infinite virtues possess a childish intellect. The grains of sand on the crust of the earth may somehow be estimated, but virtues of the Lord will forever remain uncountable. The mathematics of infinity is very interesting. It can give us a peek into the logic of the above Shanti Path mantra. From infinity, if we subtract 10, we are still left with infinity. If we subtract 1,000,000, what remains is still infinite. But what if we subtract infinity from infinity? The answer is undefined. It could be anything, depending upon the nature of the 2 infinities. In the case of God, his infinitude is so immensely limitless that if you subtract infinity from him, it will not reduce his personality in any way. Such is the nature of the Supreme Absolute. This idea was graphically portrayed by Anne Sexton, a Pulitzer Prize winner, in her poem, "What the Bird with the Human Head Knew." "Then the well spoke to me. It said, 'Abundance is scooped from abundance, yet abundance remains.' Materialistic consciousness fosters the idea of limited resources, leading to a paradigm of scarcity. Success is then perceived as a limited pie in which, if one person gets a share, it leaves less for others. Hence, humankind is destined to perpetually fight for diminishing resources. However, spiritual consciousness replaces the idea of a limited pie with the concept of abundance in the dominion of God, where there is enough for everyone to succeed." Completeness of creation. As soon as we become aware of the world, the intellect begins to question, from where did this world arise? Who made it? Why was it made? What is its purpose? The Shanti Path mantra gives us a starting point for the answers. It states that a supremely intelligent God created it for a divine purpose. Since the Creator is infinitely complete, the world manifested by him is also complete. And in manifesting it, the Creator does not diminish in any way. Thus, he creates infinite universes without depleting his energy or power. The question then arises, if there is much misery in the world, how can we say it is complete? We witness living beings undergoing birth, death, old age, and disease. Besides, there are countless other sufferings, tribulations, and miseries. How can such a sorrowful world be perfect when its living beings are steeped in hardships? This question pricks the intellect and needs to be addressed. The completeness of creation does not mean it is free from suffering. It simply implies that the world is self-sufficient for the purpose for which it was made. Its chief objective is to nurture the evolution of the indwelling souls to superconsciousness over a continuum of lifetimes. Creation is perfectly designed to provide souls the opportunity to evolve towards the ultimate perfection. To this end, the world sometimes becomes the school of hard knocks. Understand through this analogy. Eagles living in the Rocky Mountains build nests at a height of 5,000 feet. For this, they use thorny ironwood to resist the strong winds that blow at such high altitudes. They lace their nest with cotton and leaves. When the eggs hatch, the mother and father eagles get busy bringing fodder for their chicks. But as the chicks grow, the nest becomes too tight, so the mother eagle starts removing the padding in the nest, not because she is cruel, but because the chicks need to grow further. Feeling uncomfortable in the nest, the chicks emerge onto the cliff. The parents continue caring for them until one day, the mother lures her little one to the edge of the cliff and shoves it over. The poor baby enters into a free fall, and to break its speed, it spreads its wings. It then begins doing what is most natural for eagles, which is to glide in the skies as the king of the birds. If it were not for the mother's harsh push, the baby bird left on its own would have continued sitting on the cliff. Likewise, creation continuously challenges us, making us grow in the face of adversities. As a result, our consciousness slowly unfolds as our soul learns to soar higher and higher. Like this, we have been journeying since numerous lifetimes. The purpose of the universe is to present a field of possibilities to the materially bound souls, to aspire, strive, and act. Living in the material realm, we perform karmas and reap fruits as per the universal laws of creation. Through the experiences of happiness and distress, success and failure, our soul keeps learning and evolving. Sometimes along our spiritual journey, we take a few steps back. At other times, we stop, dejectedly exclaiming, "Enough! I cannot strive any further." Then again, we continue forward. The search for happiness keeps nudging our soul, ensuring we keep striving forward. This yearning for happiness in our soul will only quieten when we reach the goal God has designed for us. In this grand design of the universe, pain plays an important role. The sign of a perfected soul is not the absence of pain. On the contrary, it is the ability to stay equipoised in the midst of it. Along these lines, the Bhagavad Gita states in verse 2.56, "One whose mind remains undisturbed amidst misery, who does not crave pleasure, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady wisdom." Thus, even suffering can become a catalyst for progress. A question may be raised here. The word ada in the mantra refers to God, while idam refers to the world. However, in the world, the jivas also reside. They have originated from the Supreme as well. Are the souls perfect as well? The answer to this question is a matter of perspective. A 6-month-old baby in her mother's womb may appear imperfect to others. Its limbs and organs are not yet fully developed. But for the mother, the baby is perfect even in its present state. Likewise, in the eyes of God, all souls are his eternal fragments. They have been perfectly created by him, and he has endowed them with potential to reach their supreme destination. It is important to note that when we speak of the soul as complete, we are referring to their divine essence. In fact, the intrinsic essence of each soul is consciousness and bliss. The Vedas state, "The soul as a fragment of God is sentient, indestructible, and immutable. The only difference is that the soul is tiny, while God is limitless." For the scholars, the powerful philosophical principle stated in this mantra leads to some other very important conclusions. 1. God is both formless and possesses a form. God's infinitude can lead to a question. If the Supreme is immeasurable, then can he have a form? If he has form, will he not be restricted to a particular area? The doubt is easily resolved when we realize that the Lord is not limited to one kind of manifestation. In fact, to say that God cannot have a form is to place a limit on him. With a little thought, there should be no room for doubt that the all-powerful God can simultaneously be all-pervading and also exist in a personal form. The Vedas also support this notion. in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2.3.1, the supreme entity possesses both a personal form and a formless aspect. 2. All avatars are perfect and complete. A debate sometimes ensues amongst devotees of different forms of the Supreme. One claims Krishna is bigger, the other refutes, no, Ram is bigger, while a third states Shiv is the biggest. However, this mantra helps us understand that all avatars of God are perfect and complete. This is stated by Ved Vyas, who was himself an avatar of the Supreme. In the Varaha Puran in 2.1.24, all dissensions of God are replete with all divine powers. Hence, we should not differentiate one avatar as bigger and another as smaller. Whenever God descends into this world, he has certain objectives to accomplish. Accordingly, he manifests certain Shaktis, powers, to perform specific Leelas. The remaining Shaktis remain latent. Hence, Ved Vyas states again in the Varaha Puran, verse 2.1.245, all avatars of the Supreme Divine Lord are complete with infinite divine qualities. And 3, mention of avatars in the Vedas. Some Vedic scholars opine that the Vedas do not describe the avatars and the personal forms of God. They claim such mentions are only in the Puranas. In fact, however, the Vedas have many such references. The Rig Veda states in 1.154.1, I now declare the mighty works of Bhagavan Vishnu, who descended on the earth in his avatars. In the following mantra, the Rig Veda uses the word Kuchara, where Ku means earth and Chara means moves around. It states that Vishnu affirms his mightiness like a fierce lion. He descends on the earth while his lair is in high places. The Atharva Veda uses the word Sukhar in reference to Bhagavan Vara. It states in verse 12.1.48, repositioned in its orbit by Bhagavan Vara, the earth upholds all living beings upon itself. Again, going back to the Rig Veda, where it mentions Bhagavan Vaman, stating in Vishnu Suktam 27, Trivikram Bhagavan Vaman measured the 3 worlds in 3 of his steps. Bhagavan Shiv is mentioned in the Mahamrityunjaya mantra of the Rig Veda, verse 7.59.12. We meditate on Bhagavan Shiv, the three-eyed God, who is joyfully fragrant. He sustains and nourishes all. As a ripened fruit falls effortlessly to the ground, may he liberate us from the bondage of death and bestow immortality. Having clarified important concepts regarding the nature of the Creator, his creation, and the soul, let us now proceed to the first mantra of the Ishopanishad. Mantra 1. All of creation, whether sentient or insentient, is pervaded by God. Therefore, renouncing the desire for pleasure, stop thirsting for possessions. The world and its treasures have never belonged to anyone. The most important word in this mantra is the first one, Ishavasya, from which the Upanishad has derived its name. Isha means by God. From the root vas comes vas, which has 4 major meanings. Vas means to reside. God lives in the entire world and in the heart of each jiva, or soul. Vas means to wear clothes. God is so immense that he wears the entire world as his garment. That is why sometimes he is called Digambar, the one who, being so vast, wears directions as his clothes. Vas means to veil thickly. God has covered himself by the 3 gunas of Maya, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Hence, though we live in the world, we have no perception of him. Vas means to pervade. God is sitting within every atom of creation. Any phenomenon visible in the world, whether among sentient or insentient entities, arises from his pervasiveness. The essence of all 4 interpretations is that God pervades the entire world. This implies that God does not simply make the world, rather, having created it, he then takes up residence within every speck of it. Thus, he is often referred to as Gata Gata Vasi, meaning one who resides in every little particle. Highlighting his all-pervading presence, the Puranas relate the following story of Nrsimha Bhagavan. The demon king Hiranyakashipu was fed up with his son Prahlad's devotion and asked him, Kavasu, where is this god that you worship? Prahlad responded, Sa Sarvatra, father, he is everywhere. To illustrate his point, Prahlad pointed in 4 places. God resides in you. He resides in me. He lives in this blade of grass, and he also stays in this stone pillar. Hiranyakashipu questioned, Kasmat stamba na drishyat. If God is in the stone pillar, then why can I not see him? Saying this, he boxed the pillar. At that time, the pillar broke, and God manifested from it in the form of Nrsimha avatar. Through this divine Leela, the Lord revealed that he actually resides everywhere. The mantra invites us to use the awareness of God's all-pervasiveness for changing our perspective towards the world. Since it is permeated by Bhagavan, we should not look upon worldly things as objects for our enjoyment. Instead, we should do tina tyaktina, become detached from the hankering of material enjoyment. In its place, we must cultivate the habit of seeing the presence of the divine in everything. The mantra then concludes by saying, remember the world is not yours. Let us understand this statement next. All theistic believers accept that God is the creator, but the question still remains, what was the material he used to make the world? Where did the material come from? And who made that material? Most philosophical systems remain clueless or at best give incomplete answers. The Vedic scriptures, however, discuss this point with authority. They explain that when the Supreme wishes to create the world, he manifests the material energy from within his Mohadhara, enormous stomach. He then glances at Maya with the intent of creating. His potent glance causes Maya to begin unraveling. One by one, material entities begin to manifest and the world comes into being. In this way, God literally creates the world from within himself and sets it into motion. It is thus not incorrect to say that God himself becomes the world. Accordingly, the Purush Suktam states, Purusha avidam sarvam, God is everything that exists. And the Bhagavad Gita 7.19 states, Vasudeva sarvamidi, all that exists is Vasudev. Along the same lines, the Chatushloki Bhagavatam declares in 2.9.33 Srimad Bhagavatam, the verse explains that before creation, the Supreme alone existed. Even his material energy came later. All that exists now is his very form, and upon dissolution, he alone will remain. Considering the world's divine origin, we are guided to replace our mindset of possessiveness with the attitude of the world as God's property. Whenever we make things, we start with God's materials. Factually, we do not make even an atom from scratch. Therefore, to consider ourselves as the owner of anything is pride fueled by ignorance. True knowledge frees us from the sense of ownership. If everything belongs to God, it is meant for his pleasure. With this spirit of service, we should use the things of the world. This is the sentiment expressed in the Navidya mantra. Harivansh Puran, O Sri Krishna, all things are yours. We receive them from you and are offering them back unto you. In fact, seeking pleasure in material things is what binds us. The Bhagavad Gita states in verse 3.13, the spiritually minded who eat food that is first offered in sacrifice are released from all kinds of sin. Others who cook for their own enjoyment verily eat only sin. Here, Sri Krishna uses the word bunjati to convey, do not try to enjoy the food, instead eat as an act of devotion. When we develop the proper perspective, we realize that the things of the world are neither good nor bad. The manner in which we use them determines their value. For example, a knife is neither destructive nor constructive. In the hands of a surgeon, the scalpel becomes an instrument for saving lives, while in the hands of a robber, the knife is used to take lives. Similarly, technology is neither a bane nor a boon. It can be utilized equally for good or bad purposes. Laptops, mobiles, and digital media can be employed to propagate the word of God, but they can also be used for racketeering, gambling, and frivolous fun. The key message of the mantra is, therefore, to renounce the desire for enjoying things for ourselves. Tyaktina bunjita implies give up the desire for pleasure and replace it with the spirit of serving the Supreme. For the scholars, is the world mithya, a non-existent entity? A debate regarding the nature of the world is long-standing in Indian philosophy. The Jnani followers of Advaita firmly believe that the world is an illusion. Brahma satyam jagun mithya jivo brahmaiva napora, meaning Brahman is real, the world is false, and the jiva is non-different from Brahman. The Vaishnava Acharyas refute this by asking the question, if the world is mithya, then how was it created? The Jnanis respond by saying, it is mana kalpita, a creation of the mind, due to our ignorance. When we dispel our ajnana, ignorance, and get situated in jnana, the world will cease to exist. However, the answer is not convincing because even great jnanis who had attained Brahma jnana continued to use the world. They utilized the paper and pencil of the world to write their books. This proves the world did not cease for them. Further, after attaining Brahma jnana, great saints continue eating the food of this world. Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutra 1.1.1 states, even a Paramahansa feels hungry, as animals do. The nourishment needs of the body must be met. Why should this be so if the world is mithya? Again, the question arises that creation is so complex, from the tiniest atoms to the biggest galaxies. If it is mana kalpita, how did our mind make such an astonishing world? Besides, if it is made with our mind, then everyone should have created dissimilar things. We see that even when a person dies, the world remains. So how can it be a creation of one's mind? This very first mantra of the Ishavasya puts the matter to rest. It says, the entire world is pervaded by God. Thus, there is no question of the world being a mithya or non-existent entity. The external and internal worlds. Jadguru Kripaluji Maharaj reconciled the Jnani and Vaishnav views by explaining that there are two sansars, worlds. One is the external world, created by God. It cannot be mithya because it is made by the Satya, externally existent God. There is, in fact, another sansar that is mithya. This is the inner world within us, the world created by our own mind. It is our inner world that is the reason for our bondage. Thus, for vairagya, detachment, we must finish the internal sansar. Many are under the illusion that the external world is the reason for their misery. They leave it to reside in the Himalayas, yet strife continues. Instead, if they aim to purify their mind, then even while living in the world, they would not be bound by it. In fact, the all-pervading nature of God and the world would come in their experience. Such is the verdict of the realized saints. Hence the gopis said, Jita dekhun tita shaimyamya I hai. Sorry. Hanumanji experienced Siyaramaya Saba Jaga Jani. After introducing us to the idea of seeing the presence of God in the world and not misutilizing it, the next mantra clarifies that we should not shy away from life. It encourages us to utilize our precious human birth by working in the proper spirit. Mantra 2. Human beings should aspire to live 100 years while performing their duties with the proper attitude. Work done for the pleasure of God will not result in karmic bondage. In fact, there is no simpler means for getting rid of the bonds of karma. Our soul has been transmigrated amongst the 8.4 million species of life on Earth and on other planets. Once in a while, by the grace of God, the jiva receives the human form. This provides it with a golden chance to attain the supreme goal. The Kinopanishad states in Mantra 2.5, the human birth is a rare opportunity. If you do not utilize it to achieve your goal, you will suffer great ruin. The mantra says we must make the most of this opportunity by aspiring to live for 100 years. This is the lifespan nature has bestowed on humans in the age of Kali. Those who follow the rules of healthy living can expect to live for this long. Hence, when a boy receives the sacred thread, he is blessed that he may live 100 years. The word jijivisha has been used, meaning the will to live. By invoking a desire to live long, the mantra does not shy us away from life. In fact, it encourages us to do karma. The word aiva is for emphasis, definitely. Thus, Kirvan aiva means definitely do your work. Spirituality should not be construed as a means of escapism. Swami Vivekananda's famous words are, awake, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached. This is a translation of the Katha Upanishad mantra, Utishtata Jagrata Prapya Varinibodhata 1.2.4. However, the quality of life is even more significant than the number of years lived. We must not waste our time in purposeless entertainment. Instead, we must use each precious moment for the highest benefit. Devarshi Narad, in his namesake scripture, Narad Bhakti Darshan, says, Kshnan dharmapi vyartham na nayam. Do not waste even a half a moment of your invaluable human life. The mantra goes on to explain how to live in the world and achieve the supreme goal. The previous mantra had encouraged us to develop spiritual consciousness characterized by thoughts such as, God is the owner and enjoyer of this entire world. All I have belongs to the Lord, and I must use it in His service. This mantra now reassures us that work performed with the spiritual mindset for the pleasure of God will not result in karmic bondage. Why is this so? Consider the following example. In India, if someone deliberately kills another, he is culpable for the crime of homicide. As per the law, such a person could be sentenced to death. However, when one man has killed another, he is brought to court. The judge questions, "You killed him?" "Yes, Your Honor, I did," responds the convict. "Then you must be punished." "No, Your Honor, you cannot punish me. It was not my fault. I was driving the car on the proper side of the road at the proper speed with my feet on the brake and hands on the steering. That drunk man suddenly came and fell in front of my car. What could I do?" If his statement is verified, this person will not receive even the slightest punishment because there was no intention to kill, nor any carelessness. When work is done with selfish intent, karmic reactions must be borne, as per the law of karma. For example, if we do business with the idea of getting wealth for our pleasure, then we will be culpable for any sins committed in our work. However, if we have no attachment to the fruits and we offer them to God, then it becomes a special category of work called akarm, which means being the non-doer even while doing. To an onlooker, we may appear to be working, but from a spiritual perspective, we are considered non-doers. The Bhagavad Gita explains this concept in 18.17. Those who are free from the ego of being the doer and whose intellect is unattached, though they may slay living beings, they neither kill nor are they bound by actions. The Ishavasya mantra declares the same. No karma lipyata nara, meaning work done for the pleasure of God will not result in karmic bondage. The mantra adds another very profound wisdom here. It says, Ivam Tvaya Nanyithitu sti, meaning there is no simpler means for getting rid of the bonds of karma. Absolutely no suggestion that I condone any kind of killing. based on reading this, just so you know. Sri Krishna elucidated the same idea of Arjun. Looking on his duties as troublesome, Arjun wanted to renounce them. Sri Krishna, however, explained to him that prematurely renouncing one's works will not meet with success. The nature of the body, mind, and intellect is to remain active. If we leave them idle, they will create trouble and not permit us to be in peace. Nobody in this world can remain without action for even a moment. Indeed, all beings are compelled to act by their qualities born of material nature, the three gunas. Bhagavad Gita 3.5. When people develop a spiritual goal, they sometimes make this mistake. They renounce their worldly duties, considering them to be material, and hurry to take sannyas. But without the inner equanimity, they do not progress towards their spiritual goal. Though outwardly renounced, their mind contemplates upon the objects of the senses. Therefore, one should not rush into taking the step of external renunciation, as it can have adverse consequences. Instead, the recommended path is to continue with one's works while cultivating inner dispassion. A boat stays in the water, but the water does not stay in the boat. Likewise, we should live in the world and continue doing our duties, but not let the world live in us. We must therefore do all our works for His pleasure. As the mind gets absorbed in the Supreme, the consciousness will get elevated. And then one day the higher stage will be reached where we can renounce all works and simply engage in loving devotion to the Lord. For the scholars, let us briefly understand the three categories of activities: karma, vikharma, and akharma. Karma refers to actions we perform in accordance with the varnashram dharma of the scriptures. This is also called karma dharma. It includes our worldly duties and ritualistic ceremonies such as yajnas. Karma bestows material prosperity and attainment of the celestial abodes. But the supreme goal of the soul, which is God realization, is not achieved. Therefore, though the Vedas prescribe karma for regulating human life, they also condemn it. The Mundakopanishad states in 1.2.10, foolish people ignoring acts of eternal welfare perform Vedic rituals to fulfill material desires. Owing to the fruits of karmkand, they ascend to the celestial abodes to enjoy the celestial pleasures. However, when their pious merits are depleted, they are reborn on the earth in lower forms of life. Vikharma literally means opposite of karma. It refers to prohibited actions such as stealing others' property, consuming alcohol, gambling, and so on. Another name of vikharma is sin or impious deeds. Likewise, karma can be called good deeds. Vikharma results in hell, while karma bestows heaven. The Prajna Upanishad states in Prajna 3, Mantra 7, if you do good deeds, you will be promoted to the celestial realms. If you do bad deeds, you will be demoted to the nether regions. By doing both good and bad, you will return to the earth realm. It is evident that the goal of life is not achieved either through karma or vikharma. Now comes the third principle that will result in God realization: akarma. In it, you perform your bodily duties while keeping the mind in God. Since your mind does not hanker for the fruits of the actions, you do not get entangled in karmic reactions. This has been explained in the commentary above. Karma Yoga is another name for akarma. It will be discussed in detail in Mantra 14. If we do not maintain the spirit of akarma while performing actions and instead actively hanker for sensual pleasures, then our works become sinful. Subsequently, after death, we will face the consequences of our impious deeds, which are described in the next mantra. Mantra 3. There are realms without sunshine that are awash with the demonic mindset. They remain covered with the darkness of ignorance that gives sorrow. Humans who expend their soul energy in merely relishing sensual pleasure are sent there after death. Those in material consciousness are unaware that God is the proprietor of the world. In ignorance, they identify themselves with the body endowed with 5 senses. Thus, they pursue sensual gratification with the expectation of finding happiness. Unfortunately, hedonistic delights only provide momentary excitement, and then the desire returns. This can be compared to running on a treadmill. One can jog on it for an hour, and yet physically one remains in the same place. Likewise, even after a lifetime of attempting to fulfill the desires of the senses, one is no happier than before. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains in verse 9.19.13, all the world's luxuries, gold, women, and opulences will not suffice to satiate the mind of a man who is afflicted by lust. If we repeatedly strive to quench a desire, it grows into a craving. And if the craving is for a pleasure that is viewed by society as immoral, it gets labeled as an addiction. The state of craving becomes an addiction when it increases to the point that one loses control over oneself. Addictions grip people so strongly that they ignore even extreme harm to indulge in them. The etymology of the word addiction in Latin implies enslaved by. If you have ever tried to help people with an addiction or suffered from one yourself, you will understand why enslaved by is so apt. Hence the saying that the best time to get rid of an addiction is before it starts. Under the sway of addictions, desire, and anger, people often cross the line of morality and commit grossly sinful deeds. As a result, the soul suffers a downfall, and in its next life, it is sent to the hellish abodes. The mantra says the fruit of grossly sinful activities is asurya. Asurya, the word surya means sun, and asurya means without sunlight. There are regions in the universe that lack illumination from sun-like celestial bodies. Residents of these abodes depend upon fire for the creation of light. The implication is that those who indulge in grossly sinful activities go to the lower worlds. There is a second meaning to the verse. Surya is also the biggest source of light, and light is a universal symbol of knowledge. Hence, asurya also means without the light of knowledge. From this perspective, the mantra means fruit of sinful activities is birth in regions steeped in ignorance. These could even be regions on the earth planet itself. Tamasavarita means covered with tamas. It conveys three special meanings. One, tamas could mean darkness from lack of sunlight, as in the case of the netherworlds. Two, tamas could mean tamoguna, the mode of ignorance, which is the cause of demonic tendencies. And three, tamas could imply ignorance, which is the root cause of bondage of the soul in Maya. Thus, the verse has effectively expressed that those who go to the Asurya lokas will be covered by tamas in three ways. Atmahana, this word is misinterpreted by scholars to mean atmahatya, i.e. suicide. The meaning they ascribe is the attainment of hell after suicide. However, there is again a deeper meaning. Those who expend their Atma Shakti in sensual pleasures cause the downfall of their Atma into lower births. This is tantamount to the killing of their soul, or Atmahana. The Ramcharitmanas, using this word, states in Uttarakhand 7.44, some do not utilize the human form to cross over the material ocean. Such persons are unintelligent, worthy of reproach, and killers of the soul. It is true that suicide is a grave sin, and its result is also very torturous. This mantra, however, does not point to the sin of suicide, but to using one's Atma Shakti for the pursuit of sinful pleasures, resulting in downfall to a lower realm. Pretya. Some scholars interpret pretya as attaining the body of a malevolent spirit, owing to unfulfilled desires during one's human life. Keeping this in mind, they understand this mantra as describing the sorrows of existence as a malevolent spirit. Other scholars interpret Atmahana in the mantra to mean suicide. Since the fruits of suicide is that one gets punished and to become a disembodied being for a certain period of time, they interpret the word pretya in this context. However, a more suitable meaning of pretya is after death. We are being forewarned about sorrows that await us in the afterlife. Thus, the word pretya urges us to be careful while we are still alive. One may wonder about the punishment that awaits the sinful soul in the nether regions. The hellish abodes find mention at numerous places in the Vedic texts. In particular, the Garud Puran, the Agni Puran, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Manu Smriti have elaborated descriptions of hell, while one source describes 28 kinds of hells, another details 21, and yet another claims 7. In this manner, the Garad Puran is considered the most authoritative. It describes 36 kinds of hell, where different kinds of punishments are meted out per the impious deeds performed. Just as a sample of a few of the various kinds of hell are described here. The killer of cows goes to Mahavichi Narak, where one is immersed in rotting blood and pricked with thorns. Usurpers of others' homes and lands are sent to Kumbhikpak Narak, where they are made to lie on hot sand with burning fire all around. Those who give false testimony are sent to Rarav Narak, where they are pierced by hot iron rods. Those who enslave innocent people go to Manjusha Narak, where they are made to lie on a bed with hot iron nails. Those who ruin others' married life through false tales and gossip go to Mahaprabha Narak, where the entire body is pierced by arrows and whipped. The description of punishment in these realms is indeed vivid and strikes fear even in the most courageous. It makes people wonder how they can save themselves from hellish destinations. To dissolve this worry, the Bhagavad Gita guides us to avoid three things. Verse 16.21. There are three gates leading to the hell of self-destruction for the soul: desire, anger, and greed. Therefore, one should abandon all three. In this verse, Sri Krishna shows the way to avoid the downfall of the soul. He asks us to shun desire, anger, and greed. Instead, we should cultivate virtues such as self-control, peacefulness, and contentment, which are the true adornments of the soul. For the scholars, there is yet another insightful interpretation of this verse. The word Asurya also connotes Asura. One meaning of the Asura is demon. The straightforward implication then is that those who indulge in sin go to the abodes of the demonic. However, from the spiritual perspective, the word Asura has a deeper meaning. Asusha Ramante iti Asura. Asuras are those who rejoice in ephemeral worldly thrills. In his Bhashya, Shankarakarya interprets Asura along the same lines. He writes, "Those who lack the divine consciousness of Paramatma are all Asuras, though they may be celestial gods, and their wealth and abodes are all Asurya." From this definition, all celestials, humans and demons who are expending their life energies in the pursuit of worldly pleasures are Asura. After death, they will come back in the realm of Maya, which can be compared to darkness. This mantra helped crystallize our decision to stay clear of sinful enjoyment. The Upanishad now wants us to cultivate devotion to the Supreme Divine Personality. With this aim, the next mantra introduces us to some of God's astonishing divine attributes and his transcendental nature. Mantra 4. The Supreme Divine Personality, despite remaining unmoved, is quicker than the mind. He alone perceives everything and knows everything. Yet, he cannot be known even by celestial gods. Though he stays still, he surpasses all those who move. This world is like a child nurtured in the womb of God and is fulfilling its purpose. This mantra gives us a glimpse into the transcendent supra-excellence of God. We are introduced to some of his most astonishing qualities. Though the attributes of the Supreme are inconceivable and immeasurable, nevertheless, the mantra uses powerful literary expressions to convey them. It starts by saying, God is unmoved, and yet he moves quicker than the mind. Let us understand both these aspects of his personality. Anajat implies God is without movement. As per the Sanskrit phrase, Ajri Kampane, the root aj means shaking or movement. These are two ways in which shaking becomes possible, either by falling from one's state or by changing one's place. However, God cannot fall because his infinite glory is inseparable from him. This is also why he is known as acute, meaning the infallible one. Shaking could also be due to a change of place. This does not happen for the Supreme simply because he has no need for it. God resides in three distinct ways. 1, he is lokastha, i.e. resides in his abode. 2, vishvastha, resides in the entirety of creation. And 3, jivastha, meaning resides in all embodied beings. Consider these individually. God is Lokashta, meaning resides in his abode. The all-powerful Supreme Lord always lives in his divine abode. The Brahma Samhita states in 5.43, Sri Brahma says, in the divine realm, Lord Krishna has no eternal abode called Golok. In this divine realm, the eternal abodes of Narayan, Shiv, Durga, and other forms of God also exist. I worship that Supreme Personality, Sri Krishna, by whose opulence all this has manifest. We may ponder how, while living in his abode, God can manage activities related to creation. Vakashpati Mishra explains in Bahamati Tika, God possesses such powers that when he smiles, the universe gets created, and when he goes to sleep, dissolution happens. Thus, managing the entirety of creation does not require God to leave his divine abode. He remains unmoved or is anijat. Again, when God descends in the material realm, he does not renounce his abode. Alongside with his works as an avatar, he simultaneously continues to live in the supreme abode. From this perspective as well, he is anijat, or without movement. God is Vishvasta, meaning resides in all creation. Having made the material realms, the Supreme becomes Vishvasta, situated in the entire world, to nourish and maintain all beings. The Maharamyan states, Baharana Poshanadhara Sharanya Sarvavapaka. The refuge of all entities, that Supreme Lord has become all-pervading to nourish everyone. The refuge of all entities, that Supreme Lord, has become all-pervading to nourish everyone. Not only does God live in all things, but all things also live in him. Sri Krishna states, everything rests in me, as beads strung on a thread. Bhagavad Gita 7.7. A good way of understanding this is through the analogy of the sky. It is unaffected by clouds floating in it. Similarly, countless worlds with all their variegated phenomena occur within God, yet he continues to support them while remaining unaffected. The Bhagavad Gita explains in 9.6, know that as the mighty wind blows everywhere and yet always remains in the sky, likewise all living beings always rest in me. Thus it becomes clear that for the management of creation, God doesn't need to vibrate, dissipate, or move. He remains anijat, or unmoved. God is jivasta, meaning resides in the jivas. To track the karmas of all living beings by residing in their heart, does God have to divide and displace himself? This curiosity is addressed in a very simple way. Consider the example of the noonday sun that is in a single place but is simultaneously reflected in thousands of lakes on the earth. Similarly, to reside in the hearts of all living entities, God does not need to divide himself. Though dwelling in all, the Lord's unity of personality remains intact. Thus, though Jivasta, God is also anijat, meaning static and without division. The Yogshika Upanishad states in verse 3.20 that all-knowing, all-pervading, and ever-silent Supreme Lord lives in the heart of all living entities. In this manner, it has been established beyond doubt that God remains unmoved in his transcendental nature. This is why he is considered acute, or free of changes across forms, places, time, and situations. Now, stating the very reverse, the mantra describes God as manaso javio, meaning faster than the mind. The speed of the mind can be measured in two ways. First is the speed of thought, and second is the speed of change of place. There's a popular saying, Kshnanam yati patalam kushanam yati nabhastalam. In a moment, the mind reaches the nether regions, and in the next moment, it soars high into the sky. Yet, the mind is still no match for the speed of God and cannot travel faster than him because wherever it goes, God is already present. A fish can swim as fast as possible, but wherever it reaches, the ocean is present from before. Therefore, the speed of our thought can never compare with God's speed. On examining the mind's power of contemplation, we find it has a restricted periphery. Our material mind is not capable of contemplating the divine realm. The Ramcharitmanas states in Aranya Kand 3.14.2, wherever the mind can go is all the realm of Maya. Thus our mind can contemplate only the material world, and even that to a limited extent. God, on the other hand, is the supreme controller of both the divine and the material worlds. Thus the capabilities of mind are bested by God. He is hence known as Manaso Javio, the one who is faster than the mind. From this we can conclude that the Supreme cannot be known by the mind and intellect. At this point, one may wonder that while ordinary humans cannot know God, perhaps residents of celestial realms with their vastly superior intellect can know him. This curiosity is resolved by the mantra Na Ayanat Diva. Not even the Devatas can know God. The reason is explained in two ways. First, God is Pravam, i.e., he is the one who came before everyone else. The celestial gods were manifest from his infinite potency, so they came after him. Second, God is Arshat, meaning the one who illumines. The senses, mind, and intellect of all living beings receive their power to work from God. Even the potencies of celestial beings come from him. This insight shines through in a very interesting story from the Upanishad. Once at the end of a war with the Asuras, the Devatas sat gloating, thinking they had won solely because of their strength. God did not appreciate their arrogance and promptly enacted a Leela to shatter their pride. In the celestial sky, the Supreme appeared as an effulgent light. Wondering what the luminous object was, Indra sent Agni for investigation. God put a blade of grass in front of Agni and asked him to burn it. But as Agni moved forward to perform the task, the Lord withdrew the potency of heat from him. Alas, not only did Agni fail to burn the blade of grass, but he also became cold himself. Embarrassed and defeated, Agni returned to Indra's council. Subsequently, Vayu was sent to investigate, and the Lord asked him to move the same blade of grass. Approaching it with tremendous speed, Vayu also failed and became static. Situated in Vayu's heart, God had suppressed Vayu's powers. Defeated and his pride destroyed, Vayu returned to Indra's assembly. Worried, now Indra himself came to investigate the light. God, however, disappeared, and Yogamaya sat in his place. She scolded Indra. Your eternal father had come to destroy your pride. After winning the battle against the Asuras, he had forgotten that the source of your power was God. You had forgotten that the source of your power was God. Of all the celestials, your vanity knew no bounds. Thus, God decided not to meet you or even speak to you. Humbled and filled with repentance, Indra returned, contemplating God's glories. The story highlights that even celestial personalities with vast potencies are nothing without the power of the Supreme. Further, narrating God's inconceivable glory, the mantra says, while remaining stationary, God bests all those who run. In all of creation, whatever moves gets its power from God, who always remains beyond and unaffected. Matarashiva, this word has many meanings, prominent amongst which is Vayu. Early, we saw that all Devatas operate by the power of God. Then why is Vayu being singled out for repetition? Thus, we cannot take Matarishva to mean Vayu or Prana. There is a deeper meaning. Matri antarikshe svayati iti matrishvan, i.e., that which grows within the space of the mother's womb. An unborn baby develops in the mother's womb, where it is nourished. Similarly, this world is sustained by God and derives support from him for its functioning. Hence, we can regard the world as Matarishva. It is nurtured in the womb of God, and it is fulfilling the purpose for which it was created. This purpose was discussed in the explanation to the Shanti Path mantra. We have understood that the Supreme Divine Personality is the foundation of all things that exist. To heighten our devotion towards him, this mantra gave us a brief introduction to his transcendent excellence. In the next mantra, his attributes are further elaborated. Let us learn how he uses his inconceivable potencies to manifest contradictory attributes and also support them. Mantra 5. That Supreme Lord walks while remaining still. He is very far and also extremely close. Though he resides within everything in this world, yet he is also present outside this creation. The Creator who made the dualities, light and darkness, heat and cold, pleasure and pain, possesses conflicting attributes within himself as well. Here are some astonishing ones. God walks while remaining still. In fact, the world too has a dual static moving nature. In Sanskrit, world is called sansar. It is defined as sansariti sansara, meaning the world is that which is always slipping away. This slipping happens in many ways. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus had brilliantly explained that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. The next time you step into the river, you have changed, and so has the river. Similarly, objects may appear the same to us, but they are actually changing. A mango we plucked from a tree begins to rot in a couple of days. Trees themselves undergo change every day as they shed leaves and grow new ones. Our life too keeps moving from year to year. The cells in our body regenerate while the body transforms from childhood to youth to old age. Our emotions, wisdom, and memories continuously shift. The option of returning to the past is never available. You can only move forward whether you like it or not. It is thus established that the world keeps shifting in every way. Now connect this with the fact that the world is Vishvarupa, cosmic form of the Lord. It means when the world moves, God moves alongside. Hence, one implication of Tadijati is God moves in the form of the world. Yet even while moving, he remains the unmoving foundation of the world. For instance, noontime travelers in a desert find that the sun appears to move with them. In fact, however, the sun remains positioned at the center of the solar system. Similarly, there is no question of God's movement. He is all-pervading and everywhere at all times. On his unshakable foundation, the sansar continues to slip. From this perspective, the mantra says, Tanajati, meaning God is static. Let us now consider God's movement with respect to the individual souls. As Paramatma, he is situated in the heart of all living beings. The Shvitjvatara Upanishad states in 6.13, the Lord resides within countless souls, enlivening them. Therefore, he accompanies us as we transmigrate from life to life. From this perspective, Tadajati means God moves with the souls. But the reverse is also true. He is the innermost witness who tracks our karmas and bestows the fruits of our actions. Yet he is unaffected by the travails that engulf the living being. Hence, Tat Na Ijati, i.e., God remains static as the untouched basis of our life. Third, let us examine this mantra from the perspective of devotional sentiments. On one hand, God is the dispenser of justice through the law of karma. He maintains order in creation without partiality. Then what explains the variations we see in the world? Compare this to rain. The rainwater falls equally upon the earth, yet the drop that falls on the cornfields gets converted into grain. The drop that falls near a desert bush gets transformed into a thorn. The drop that falls in the gutter becomes dirty water, and the drop that falls in the oyster becomes a pearl. There is no partiality on behalf of the rain. The variation observed is because of the nature of the recipients. Similarly, the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 9.29, I am equally disposed to all living beings. I am neither inimical nor partial to anyone. From this perspective, God is unmoved, being equal to all. On the other hand, the second line of the above verse of the Bhagavad Gita states, verse 9.29, but the devotees who worship me with love reside in me, and I reside in them. Upon his devotees, the Lord bestows his special graces, divine knowledge, divine bliss, and divine love, so much so that he even becomes enslaved by selfless devotion. Under its sway, he performs sweet pastimes with his devotees. For example, while the souls of all the world remain bound in Sri Krishna's Maya Shakti, he permits himself to be tied to a grinding wheel by Mother Yashoda because of her maternal love for him. From this perspective, Tat Ajati means devotion makes his heart melt and God moves. Next, the mantra states another set of contradictory attributes of the Lord. It says, God is far, yet he is also near. Let us look at these individually. God is far, Tajur. He is so far that he is beyond the entire material cosmos. God is near, Tadvantika. He is so near to us that even the word near is inappropriate, since he resides within us as the indwelling Paramatma. This contrariness can be investigated from the devotional perspective as well. In the absence of faith, love, and surrender, God remains unreachable. Those who are proud of their sadhana end up going further away. But the same Lord responds immediately when a surrendered soul calls out to him with loving devotion. The Narad Bhakti Darshan explains in Sutra 27, God hates pride in the heart of devotees while he loves humility. In this way, for the arrogant, the Supreme is far, yet for the humble devotees, he is close and responds immediately. A popular Hindi idiom reveals how God reciprocates with the jiva. If you take one step towards me with love, I will run 60 steps towards you. But if you are stubborn and disobey my instructions, I will punish you severely. Continuing with the description of God's contrary virtues, the mantra states, he resides within everything. The first mantra of the Upanishad had declared that God is all-pervading, which implies that every speck of creation has his presence. He is outside the entire world. All creation exists within the Supreme. Also, at the time of dissolution of creation, God absorbs it back into himself. This confirms that he is outside the world. Thus, God resides everywhere, both within the world and outside it. The Puranas confirm this insight with a very interesting tale. Once Devarshi Narad obtained a very beautiful fruit and felt inspired to offer it to Bhagavan Shiv. Upon reaching Shankarji's abode, Kailash, he offered the juicy fruit to him. Both the sons of Shiv, Ganesh, and Kartikeya saw the fruit and started arguing that it be given to them. To resolve the matter, Shiv announced a competition. Whoever would circumambulate the universe and come to him first would obtain the fruit. The celestial sage Narad stayed on to find out who would win. The valiant Kartikeya mounted his peacock and left immediately to complete the circumambulation of the entire universe. Ganesh found himself disadvantaged with his plump body, so instead he hit upon a brilliant idea. He got Gauri Shankar to sit on a stone platform, did their parikrama thrice, and asked his father for the fruit. Lord Shiv replied, "Son, you have only walked around us thrice, while your brother has already left at great speed to cover the universe." Ganesh responded, "Father, since you are God, the entire creation resides within you. Thus I have circumambulated the entire universe thrice." Hearing this deep insight, Shiv and Parvati burst into laughter and could not disagree with Ganesh. When Kartikeya returned, he found Ganesh had already eaten the fruit. The story brings forth the philosophic insight that God is both inside and outside the world. A similar pastime was enacted by Sri Krishna as well. When Mother Yashoda made him open his mouth, the Lord showed her innumerable universes within it, including her and Krishna. Yagma, God's all-powerful Shakti. What is God's secret ability that enables him to do this? It is his Yogmaya power, which is his internal potency. The Lord is the master of Yogmaya. This all-pervading Shakti of God enables him to be Kartamu Kartam, Anyatha Kartam Samartha, possessing the ability to do what is possible, what is impossible, and what is mutually converse. Just as God takes on various personal forms such as Narayan, Krishna, Ram, and Shiv, similarly, the Yogmaya Shakti also manifests in the personal form as Lakshmi, Radha, Sita, and Parvati. These forms of the Yogmaya power are revered in the world by the name Mother of the Universe. Towards the all-powerful God, we must cultivate our devotion by appreciating him as the foundation of all creation and the possessor of infinite divine virtues. We must practice perceiving his presence everywhere in the world. The changes that will take place in our consciousness as a result of doing so are described in the next mantra, Mantra 6. All living beings are situated in God, and he resides in all living beings. One who clearly perceives this truth does not hate anyone. When spiritual aspirants start perceiving God everywhere as the origin and basis of creation, their sight, emotions, and actions undergo a transformation. This mantra describes how these changes are reflected in our thoughts, sentiments, and behavior. Jugupsa, the word is constructed from root words gup and san. It implies thought waves of bitterness or hatred. Jugupsa means an enhanced form of these negative sentiments. From a philosophical perspective, Vijugupsa encompasses two kinds of lower thought forms. One, hatred. We resent others when they interfere with the fulfillment of our desires. We contemplate the person's faults and become averse with bitterness. This is the aspect of hatred or deep aversion in Vijugupsa. 2. Envy. It means harboring bitterness towards others due to their virtues or triumphs. Why does this negative emotion arise? On seeing others' accomplishments, we become painfully aware of our own failures and shortcomings. As a result, we harbor resentment towards them. The negativity subsequently takes the form of condemnation and criticism. This is the jealousy aspect of Vijugupsa. Vijugupsa causes us to commit violence by our thoughts, words, and deeds. Instead of harboring such negativity, we should approach others with respect and admiration, since they are living examples of the human potential for progress. Besides, ultimately all talents come from God. So envy of others' abilities is in effect envy of God himself. The question arises, how can we get rid of hatred and envy? The solution the mantra provides is to learn to see God situated in everyone. Anupashyati, in Sanskrit, pashyati has two meanings. 1, to see with the eyes, and 2, to see as per spiritual knowledge. By the second definition, anupashyati means to see clearly as per spiritual knowledge. Spiritual books are called darshan shastras, meaning books that enable us to see. This phrase has a very deep import. Usually, we do not realize the biases in the way we see things. A professor once showed his students a blank paper with a big dot in the center. He asked them what they saw. Without exception, they all responded that they saw the black dot. The professor then pointed out that manifold more than the dot was the empty space around it. But they had failed to see it because they had only focused on the prominent object. Likewise, we assume the way we see the world is exactly how it is. We do not realize how tainted our perspective is. Chanakya Pandit states in Chanakya Niti 12:15, if the owl is unable to see during the day, it is not the fault of the sun. Similarly, God is present everywhere in this world, but we fail to see him. This is not a defect in the world, but in our vision. The Darshan Shastras teach us to truly see things in proper light. This is Shastra Chakshu, meaning to see through the eyes of the scriptures. It is also called Jnana Chakshu, meaning to see through the eyes of knowledge. The mantra asks us to cultivate the vision that the Lord resides in all. This instruction is not merely a flight of fancy. The Vedas inform us that the world is in fact the veritable form of God. The Mundaka Upanishad teaches that God himself becomes the world. In 1.1.7, this verse gives three powerful analogies to explain that the world is an aspect of the divine. 1. Spiders spin amazing webs. Astonishingly, spider thread has a tensile strength per gram weight that is even higher than steel. To top it, the strands of the web are waterproof. Even scientists are intrigued by this material. It is extracted by the spider from within itself, and when the web is no longer required, the spider sometimes takes it back into itself. Like the spider, God extracts the material energy from within his being at Shrishti, creation, and then withdraws it back at Pralaya, dissolution. 2. From the earth, trees spring forth. The mud itself transforms into the trees. Then one day, the tree dies and becomes mud again. Likewise, by unraveling his material energy, God himself becomes the world. Then one day, the world goes back into God. 3. Hairs shoot out on humans. Those are not planted from the outside. The body itself shoots out in the form of hair. Similarly, the materials that constitute the world are manifested from God himself. When we learn to see everything in its connection with the divine, then it becomes worthy of our worship. The story is told of a small nonprofit organization that was experiencing bitter conflicts amongst its volunteers. Its president went to a guru and said, "O sage, we are unable to get along with each other. This seriously debilitates our functioning, rendering us ineffective as an organization." The sage responded, "The reason is that an avatar of God is in the midst of your volunteers. He works incognito, so you do not recognize him. But since you all misbehave so much towards him, it has resulted in great inauspiciousness for the organization." The president returned and began thinking who amongst the volunteers could be the avatar. None was free from defects. But then if God was working incognito, he would be hiding himself behind a veneer of defects. So the president decided to call a meeting and informed everyone about what the sage had said. This information that one amongst them was an avatar changed the volunteers' behavior towards each other. They stopped quarreling and became respectful. In a little while, the atmosphere became harmonious and the organization became effective. Along these lines, this mantra encourages us to see God everywhere. The word anupashyati in the mantra is telling us to develop the eyes of knowledge. It must be done towards all living beings. So let us consider the two words used, bhutani and bhutishu. These words in the mantra are worthy of special attention. They refer to the multitude of living beings. The word bhuta comes from the root bhu, satyam, which means that which is full of life. Here it is employed as a plural, bhutani referring to multiple living beings. Further, the adhikaran vibhakti form, bhuteshu, is used to refer to something common inside all living beings. The mantra is thus asking us to develop a twofold vision. One, to see the presence of God in living beings, and two, to see all living beings in God's omnipresence. This grand unity of all living beings with God, when perceived, will dispel the illusion of their independent existence from our intellect. Then we will develop equanimity of vision. From it will arise a purified state of mind described as na vijigupsati, i.e., does not hate or envy anyone. The Bhagavad Gita states the same principle in verse 6:30. To those devotees who perceive me everywhere in the world and see me in all living beings, I am never lost to them, nor are they ever lost to me. Therefore, the main means of reducing vijigupsa is to feel the divine presence everywhere. Then with equanimity of vision, we will not engage in violence of thought, speech, or action towards anyone. For the scholars, on hearing that God brings forth the raw material of the world from his own being, some scholars ask a question. The Supreme is sentient. How has insentient material energy manifested from him? The answer is, in fact, quite simple. We see the same contradiction within ourselves. Understand from this example presented in a lighter vein. Shivdut was sleeping soundly. Vishnudut came with a pair of scissors and cut his choti, tuft of hair at the back of his head. When Shivdut woke up, he was shocked to discover his choti was gone. How did Shivdut not know when his choti was being cut? Had it been stuck on his head from the outside? No, it had grown from his body itself. Look at the wonder. From the sentient body, the insentient hair grows. While the body has life, the hair does not. Now consider the second scenario. While Shivdut was awake, Vishnudut came from behind and slightly pulled a few hairs on his head. Shivdut screamed, "Ah, my head is paining." But your hair is insentient. Even when it is cut, you do not come to know. Then why is it paining now? Yes, my hair is insentient, but this time you pulled the sentient portion of the hair, and that is causing the pain. Again, look at the wonder. The same hair has a sentient portion and an insentient portion. One segment of the hair carries the sensation of pain while the other does not. Likewise, there is no contradiction if from the sentient God the insentient material energy manifests. The ideal spiritual practices and recommended behavior for spiritual aspirants have been explained thus far. In the next mantra, the aspirant's inner state is described when perfection is attained. Mantra 7. All living beings reside in God, and he resides in all living beings. One who clearly knows this truth sees the unity of all creation with the Lord. For such a realized sage, how can there be delusion or grief? This mantra demystifies the sublime consciousness of God-realized souls. In this illumined state, their knowledge, awareness, and experience all align with the divine. Let us try to understand how. In Mantra 6, the word unapashyati was used, meaning to see clearly as per spiritual knowledge. At this stage, the sadhak is in the process of spiritual practice. In Mantra 7, anupashyata and vijanata are used, meaning to definitely see and to definitely know, respectively. These words indicate a higher spiritual state. The aspirant has attained perfection of divine vision, and the entire consciousness is now united with God. The mantra explains that at that stage of divine consciousness, moha, delusion, and shoka, lamentation, both fall away naturally. To comprehend this necessitates a discussion on delusion and sorrow. Moha, delusion. It comes from the root ma, meaning state of unconsciousness. Hence the word moha means that which causes unconsciousness. It refers to delusion. One experiences moha when one is in delusion. This moha is the root of all problems. The Ramcharitmanas states, moha sakala vyadhina kara mula, tina ti puni ubajahin bahu sula. In Uttarakhand 7, 120, 15. Moha is the cause of all mental and psychological afflictions. It makes many thorn-like obstacles to appear. The first of these afflictions is clouding of judgment. The Bhagavad Gita states the same point in 263. Moha results in bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, the intellect gets destroyed, and when the intellect is destroyed, one is ruined. Thus, moha is the opposite of the intellect's wisdom. With the right knowledge in place, moha gets destroyed. Let us learn from this story. A man found a few pieces of glass and believed them to be diamonds. Owing to the faulty decision of his intellect, he experienced the false joy of owning diamonds. One day, he went to sell the glass pieces in the marketplace. A diamond merchant, on inspecting them, realized they were not diamonds at all. He dispelled the man's illusion by shattering the glass pieces with a stone. The moment the man realized the truth, his moha about being the owner of diamonds was destroyed. Nonetheless, based on them, he had dreamed of a luxurious life. Now that the diamonds were gone, his dream was also shattered, and he wept loudly. His own moha had become the reason for his sorrow. Shoka, sorrow. The above story elucidates that wherever there is moha, it is followed by sorrow. These two form an inseparable pair. The same object of our moha becomes the reason for our sorrow. As moha is opposite of wisdom, so also is sorrow the opposite of it. To destroy Arjuna's worldly sorrow, Sri Krishna spoke the Gita. In fact, the very first verse he spoke to Arjuna was 2:11. While you speak words of wisdom, you are mourning, doing shoka, for that which is not worthy of sorrow. The wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. At the very end of the Bhagavad Gita, again Sri Krishna addressed Arjuna. O Arjuna, have your ignorance and moha delusion been destroyed? Bhagavad Gita 18:72. Responding to this question, Arjuna replied, O Sri Krishna, by your grace, my moha has been destroyed and the loss of memory has also been rectified. As a result, my spiritual knowledge has returned. Bhagavad Gita 18:73. It is important to note that Sri Krishna only asked Arjuna whether he was free from moha or not. In his response, Arjuna only spoke about the destruction of moha. Sri Krishna neither inquired about Arjuna's sorrow, nor did Arjuna mention anything about it. The spiritual principle is, moha and shoka are a correlated pair. Hence, the destruction of moha is also the destruction of sorrow. Shoka occurs when we harbor moha towards objects, people, or circumstances, and we lose them or fear losing them. Arjuna was experiencing moha towards those he was deeply attached to. Thus, when his moha was destroyed, the shoka on their death was also destroyed. Arjuna's reply, therefore, was only about moha. The Ishavasya reconfirms the same insight by saying, "For those who have perfected divine vision, how can there be delusion? Without delusion, how can there be sorrow?" God-realized saints are beyond the twin thorns of delusion and sorrow and are ever joyful. They remain steadfast and resolute in God's service and engage in the welfare of all living entities. This mantra provides us a litmus test to know whether we have attained our spiritual goal. If our emotions oscillate between hankering and lamentation, then we do not yet possess divine vision. We must continue our spiritual practice with humility and not pretend to have attained the stage of perfection. For the scholars, some scholars believe that the phrase Aikitvam Anupashyata in the mantra points to the philosophy of Advaita. Thus, they declare that upon attaining perfection, a jiva loses its individual existence and becomes one with the formless absolute. However, we must understand the phrase with reference to the context. In the previous mantra, by means of anupashyati, progress in sadhana was conveyed. By means of anupashyati, progress in sadhana was conveyed. In this mantra, anupashyata conveys that the same sadhana has now reached siddhi, meaning perfection. Now the siddha sees the unity of the entire world with God. This is the akyatva, meaning oneness of the consciousness with God. Sage Narad talks of this oneness of perception in his Bhakti Darshan, Sutra 55. After obtaining this love, one sees him alone, hears about him alone, describes him alone, and thinks of him alone. The Srimad Bhagavatam also describes this elevated state of consciousness where one sees God everywhere. Verse 11.2.45. Those who see God in all beings and realize that everything is eternally situated in the Supreme, such devotees are the highest of all. This experience is fully aligned with the Vishishta Advaita of Ramanujakarya, the Vishuddha Advaita of Vallabhakara, the Akantya Bedabed of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Dvaita Advaita of Nimbarkarya. All these great Acharyas have talked about the unity of the jiva with God. They have also described that on God realization, the soul becomes one with God, in the sense that the consciousness gets united. For example, the Ramcharitmanas states, Janata Tumhai Hai Jai, in Ayodhya Kand 2.126.2. On knowing God, the soul becomes godlike. But this does not mean the soul itself becomes God. The elevated state discussed in this mantra requires dedicated spiritual practice and the cultivation of devotion. The next mantra takes us further in this direction by going even deeper into the qualities and nature of the Supreme Divine Personality. Mantra 8. Such a saintly person truly attains the supremely resplendent and omnipotent God, who is without a body of veins and blood vessels. His form is beyond material defects and is ever untouched by sin. That Supreme Personality is all-knowing, full of wisdom, all-pervading, and self-manifest. Since time immemorial, he has been bestowing desirable objects to embodied beings based on their karmas. The Ishavasya Upanishad now delves deeper into the nature of the Supreme Divine Personality. In this mantra, God is described through 11 prominent names. These can be divided into 3 categories covering different aspects of his personality. 1. Guna Vachak, or names that describe God's attributes. 2. Svarupa Vachak, or names related to the nature of his form. And 3. Kriya Vachak, or names describing his works. Come, let us take a closer look into these, as it will enhance our appreciation of his glories. Guna Vachak Nama, these are names describing God's attributes. 1. Shukram, this name of God implies he who is endowed with the highest extent of brilliance and omnipotence. This word is used for the Supreme in the Mundaka Upanishad as well. Mantra 3.2.1. The humble and peaceful ones who selflessly worship the Supreme are victorious over the world. They attain that omnipotent Shukra. 2. Sudam, Etymologically, the word shuddham is composed of the roots shuddha and kata, meaning manifesting purity. As a descriptive for God, shuddham literally means the pure one. Defects are a consequence of the material energy Maya. However, just as darkness cannot overwhelm the sun, likewise Maya cannot even come close to the Supreme. Being ever beyond its purview, he is without blemish and free from defects. Therefore, our mind too gets purified by absorbing it in the Lord. As it gets cleansed, the soul perceives more aspects of God's divine attributes. 3. Apapavida, it means one who remains untouched by pious and impious deeds. The law of karma applies to us materially bound souls because we work with selfish intent for the sake of our own happiness. As a result, we are obliged to bear the karmic consequences for our actions. Karma, however, does not apply to the Lord because he has no selfish intention whatsoever. The Taittiriya Upanishad states, "Know the Supreme to be the form of bliss." 3.6. He has no need for bliss from external sources. Since God is free from self-seeking, he is beyond the law of karma. Confirming this, Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 4.14, "O Arjun, no karma can bind me, since I have no desire for the fruit of actions." The question is asked by some, Sri Krishna stole butter from the homes of the gopis. Isn't that a sin? The answer is that whatever Sri Krishna did was for the welfare of the souls. In this particular case, the gopis eagerly yearned for Makun Kaur, butter thief, to come and steal their butter. While extracting it from yogurt, they would think, "Krishna, Krishna." As the knower of their heart, he fulfilled their wishes. His stealing butter was to give pleasure to his devotees. In the process, he also enacted divine leelas that provided the basis for bhakti to billions of devotees ever since. The Ramcharitmanas uses the splendid analogy of the wind, sun, and fire in this verse. Balkhand 1.68.4. This verse explains that the all-powerful is unaffected by impurities. It conveys the idea with three vivid analogies. 1. When the sun's rays fall on dirty water, does the sun become impure? Of course not. On the contrary, the water gets purified. 2. Again, wind flows through an impure place. Does the wind god become impure? Definitely not. Rather, the place gets cleansed of impurities. 3. Yet again, does the Ganga become an impure river because dirty streams flow into it? Never. Instead, the unclean streams become the Ganga. Likewise, the all-pure God is untouched by sins. The Srimad Bhagavatam goes a step further. It explains that even pure-hearted saints are not bound by the fruit of reactions of work. 10:33-35. Material activities never taint the devotees of God who are fully satisfied in serving the dust of his lotus feet. Nor do material activities taint those wise sages who have freed themselves from the bondage of karmic reactions by the power of yoga. So where is the question of bondage for the Lord himself, who assumes his transcendental form by his own sweet will? Meaning of nirgun. The three guna vachak names of God are proof of his divine attributes. This refutes the jnani's notion that God is nirgun, without attributes. In the context of the Supreme, nirgun means without material gunas or qualities. The Padma Puran states 6:227, 40-41. When the Lord of the world is said to be nirgun in the scriptures, it implies that he does not have material attributes, but he possesses innumerable divine attributes. Svarupa Vashak Nama, these are names describing God's divine form. 4. Akayam, this name can be understood with three different perspectives. Being radiant, or 1. Being radiant, God's divine form is not visible, and hence he is Akaya. This meaning aligns with mantras 15 and 16 of the Upanishad, where the devotee prays to the Lord to reveal his divine form by hiding his effulgence. 2. As God is covered by Yogmaya, his kaya, or form, is not visible to everyone. The Bhagavad Gita states, verse 7:25, Sri Krishna says, "I am not manifest to everyone. being veiled by my divine Yogamaya energy. 3. Akaya is he in whom there is no difference between himself and his body. In the Kurma Puran and the Narad Pancharatra, there's some quotes that I don't know how to read. Both these verses imply that for the Supreme Divine Personality, there is no distinction between the body and the embodied. Our body houses physical parts, working senses, knowledge, senses, mind, intellect, ego, and the Atma. All these entities perform specific functions. However, in the case of God, this kind of distinction does not exist. With any of his divine senses, he can do the work of all of them. 5. Avranam, without wounds, unscathed. Some scholars explain the previous word akiyam to mean God does not have a body, but then avaranam would make no sense. When already stated he does not have a body, then why say his body is without wounds? This is like the conversation, has Ramesh come? Yes, Ramesh has arrived. Okay, so have Ramesh's hands and feet also arrived? In this conversation, the second question is irrelevant. If Ramesh has arrived, his hands and feet have also arrived. Likewise, if the previous attribute akayam meant that God does not have a body, then this one, his body is avranam, does not have wounds, becomes irrelevant. In reality, akiyam implied that God's body is not material. He has a spiritual body. Hence, avranam emphasizes the divinity of his body by saying that it is bereft of material defects. 6. Ashnavaram, he is without veins and arteries. This again reinforces the idea that God's body is not material but spiritual. The Upanishad is expressing that his form is not made from the gross elements of the world. The Padma Puran details this point in 577.43. The divine form of the Supreme Lord is free of flesh, blood, marrow, and organs that constitute material bodies. Thus, these three attributes of God's personal form refute the Jnani's notion that God cannot possess a form. Kriya Vishak Nama, names pertaining to God's divine activities. 7. Kavi, the word is composed from the roots kavri and vernain. It means one who describes things as they are. God manifested the Vedas from his breath, and this was the first time the absolute truth was revealed in our material universe. Thus, the Supreme Lord became the first Kavi. From the perspective of grammar, ku is the root, ach is the suffix. The word Kavi literally means one who knows. The omniscient Lord is the original knower and revealer of the truth. He further imparted his knowledge to Sri Brahma. The Srimad Bhagavatam states, Tina Brahma, Haryadya Adikaya 111. At the beginning of creation, Narayan revealed the knowledge of the Vedas in the heart of the firstborn, Sri Brahma. Thus, by Narayan's grace, Sri Brahma became the Adi Kavi, the first knower in the universe. Interestingly, Adi Kavi, meaning first poet, has been a devotee of God in many of the Indian languages. For instance, Valmiki was the Adi Kavi of Sanskrit literature, Narsimita was the Adi Kavi of Gujarati literature, and the Adi Kavi of Telugu literature was Nanaya. And Bhanabhakta Acharya, writer of the Nepali Ramayana, is considered the Adi Kavi of Nepali. The full import of Kavi in this mantra is that God himself is the original knower and revealer of the truth. From time to time, he creates Adi Kavis in the world by his power, including Adi Kavi Brahma. 8. Manishi, the wise one who contemplates on deep principles. Who can be a bigger Manishi than God himself? Whenever he descends on the earth as an avatar, he shares deep philosophical truths, and humankind gains a veritable sea of knowledge. Through the philosophical discussion between Sri Ram and Guru Vasisht, we obtained a rare scripture, Yog Vasisht. When Sri Krishna became Arjun's guru and propounded philosophical truths to him, the world received the Bhagavad Gita. Yet again, Maharshi Kapil, who is also a descendant of the Supreme, taught Sankhya Darshan. Commentators have considered another meaning of the word Manishi in this mantra as one who controls the mind. Great sages who have mastered their mind are called Manishi. The The Supreme Lord, however, is the master of everyone's mind. In fact, the mind derives its power to think from God. The Kenopanishad states in verse 1.5, the Supreme is beyond the mind's contemplation, for the mind itself derives its ability to think from him. Hence, no one can challenge that they will know him by the thinking power of their mind. Therefore, God is the primal and eternal Manishi and the source of everyone's ability to think. 9. Parabu. The word is composed from the root phrase bu, satayam. When used for God, it means he who is present everywhere at the same time. By his omnipresence, God maintains the world. This vast and complex creation could not have remained stable for even a moment without his ubiquity in it. Just as a computer's circuitry is powered by electricity and is useless and inert without it, likewise the world too cannot function without God's all-pervading presence. 10. Svayambhu, he who is his own cause. Some interpret Svayambhu to mean the sudden appearance of a power entity in the emptiness of space, a powerful entity in the emptiness of space. Further, they laughably opine that the said entity was subsequently worshipped as God. However, the Vedas explain that space is not mere nothingness, it also an entity, and it is manifest in God or by God. In that space, creation of other entities proceeds. The Taittiriya Upanishad explains, from that supreme sky was created, from sky came the air, from the air came fire, from fire came water, from water came the earth, from earth came plants, and from plants food was born. 2.1.1. Modern science has understood that space is not independent of time. Both are woven together in a space-time fabric. The Vedas inform that time is also a creation of the Supreme. The Arthavarshira Upanishad states in Mantra 8, time is born of the immortal Supreme Lord. Thus, God is neither a product of the emptiness of space, nor is he a phenomenon occurring in time. On the contrary, God is the creator of both space and time. The idea behind calling God Svayambhu is to indicate that he is self-manifest. Every entity in creation originates from him, but he does not have a source. Thus, he is also referred to as the cause of all causes. This is how Sri Brahma prays to him. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, Sri Krishna is the origin of everything, but he himself is without an origin. He is without a cause and is the cause of all causes. The import is that no one manifested the Supreme, he is his own cause. In this manner, God is Svayambhu. 11. Yathatya Arthan Vyadadhata, one who creates life materials leading to the experience of joys and sorrows for living entities based on their karmas. It is important to distinguish the usage of Arthan here from other standard usages of the word. In Varnashrama Dharma, there are 4 kinds of activities defined: Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha. The Arthan appearing in this mantra does not refer to the Artha that is a limb of the fourfold fruitive activities, nor does it refer to Artha meaning economic resources. In this mantra, the word Arthan encompasses all events, circumstances, destiny, ripened karmas, mental states, and destinations that are awarded to a living entity on the basis of its karmas. However, the law of karma can only be administered by an all-knowing entity who keeps track of every thought and deed in every lifetime of every living entity. Also, it requires an all-powerful entity to dispense the fruits of the karmas. Such an omniscient and all-powerful being is God alone. The mantra thus refers to him as Yathatya Arthan Vyadadhata. The above 5 activity-related names are proof that God possesses numerous Shaktis for performing these tasks. This refutes the Jnani's notion that God is Shakti Rahit, i.e. without Shakti. Moreover, to conduct activities at the scale of creation, an endless dynamism is necessary. This refutes the Jnani's notion that the Supreme Lord is an inert, inactive principle. For the scholars, it is important to note that no living entity in the material realm possesses the 11 attributes of God described in this mantra. But the question remains, what happens after salvation? Does the soul become Brahman? Ved Vyas states in the Brahma Sutra, one realizing the Supreme, The soul, on realizing the Supreme, the soul relishes the infinite bliss of God. 4.4.21. The God-realized soul receives divine love, divine knowledge, and divine bliss. This happens by the grace of God through the Yogamaya Shakti. However, the Brahma Sutra also states the soul does not receive the powers of creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the world. These remain with the all-powerful God. 4.4.17. Hence, the distinction between Jiva and Brahman persists even after God realization. Thus, the unconditional equality of Jiva and God is clearly refuted. Here are some more differences between God and the Jiva. God is Svadhin, independent, while the Jiva is Paradhin, dependent. God is the Niyamak, controller, while the Jiva is Niyami, controlled by him. God is Vibhuchit, infinitely conscious, while the Jiva is Anuchit, endowed with tiny consciousness. God is omnipresent, while the soul's consciousness pervades only in the body it inhabits. God is the Palak, guardian, while the soul is its Balak, child. God is Sarva Shaktiman, possessor of infinite powers, while the Jiva is Alpa Shaktiman, possessing limited powers. This mantra aimed at deepening our devotion to the Supreme by enhancing our understanding of his divine personality. The next mantra sheds light on the tussle between materialism and spirituality and teaches us not to create a dysfunctional imbalance on either side. But that is plenty for now. We got through mantra 8.